Okay, guys, welcome. Still setting up. Senzi, are you in?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I saw that you joined us on the episode that we had with Renee Becker. I hope you also enjoyed that session.
I absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah, because and also there's a major link between real estate and also interior design. There's that major link.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Nos is here. Yeah.
Hey, Senzi Dlamini.
Ngiyaphila unjani?
Oh, it's been a long time.
I know.
You look well. You look ravishing.
You too.
You look ravishing.
Well,
Thank you, my friend.
If I have to convince people that I'm gonna make their houses look beautiful, I have to look beautiful myself.
You know, you are the brand. You are the brand. Thank you for joining us today. This is awesome.
I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Well, handing over, Mbuyi is the one in charge. He's the gentleman to take care of the ladies today. So we'll just enjoy the show. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Nos. It's Women's Month, and so you guys have to sit back and relax. And we have and I'm here for you guys. Let me start with my introduction for today's, or rather this episode. And thank you also, Senzi, for joining us on the episode that we had with Renee. So as we all know, guys, that August marks Women's Month, and also here at Enable, we are celebrating remarkable women from different walks of life who are thriving in different fields, in their own respective fields. And our guest today is definitely pushing an envelope in the interior design field. When interior design is a major part of our lives, you know, Winston Churchill once said, "We shape our homes, and our homes also shape us." And Venus Williams once described this field and said, "Interior design is a business of trust." And we're gonna hear from Senzi on whether she agrees with us on that one. Interior designers are people who have to listen not with their ears, but they also have to listen with their hearts, because interior is the natural projection of our hearts. It's actually, interior is the natural projection of our souls, in fact. And this is echoed by one seasoned interior designer who once said, "I see myself as a storyteller. Clients hire me to write their biographies, but instead of words, I use fabric, furniture, architectural elements, and of course, personal items." Our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is an incredible woman. She is a founding director and senior interior designer at Senzi Corporation, which is a world-class design hub specializing in textile and interior design. And their slogan, ladies and gentlemen, says, "We are exploring beauty through the lens of art and design." She is once quoted saying, it feels very purpose-driven, like I was called to show up on earth in this way, in this space. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome today on the Lockdown Chat with myself and Nos Royal, powered by Enable South Africa, Senzi Dlamini. Welcome to the show, sis. You may, okay, let me, please kindly unmute.
Yes.
Yes,
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mbuyi. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of your show. So first of all, Senzi Corporation is a company that I started because I sat and thought a lot about what I'm here to offer in the world. And it felt like the right thing because outside spending time with my family and cooking, I think the one thing that really brings me joy is to create beautiful spaces and come up with beautiful visual stories. So this is why I decided that I would start a company and it would specialize in textile and interior design. So my background as an artist is really the fact that I started very late. I was a science student at school, and I went on to study physics at tertiary. But 2 years into studying it, I felt that it was not what I was called to do. So I dropped out and I had to start afresh and do art lessons and learn how to do art. And then I went on to study textile design. But as I was studying textile design, because textile design is the study of designing fabrics, as I was studying textile design, I specialized in interior design. So I would design my fabrics and apply them onto interiors. And that is how I fell in love with interior design. But as well, I was raised in a home where there was an interior designer in the house, and she is the biggest inspiration for me to pursue interior design, not only studying it, but as a business.
Are you still okay? Okay. Oh, we were still listening. Don't know. I don't know whether. Okay. You were still. You were
Are
still.
you done?
No, we can carry on. So, my aunt, who is my foster mother, actually inspired me to study interior design and pursue it as a career. And after studying at design school, I then left to look for a job like any other graduate would do. And I've worked for a number of companies in the industry. I've worked as a kitchen designer at some point. I've worked as an interior designer in various fields in the industry, and I learned a lot in the process. But the one thing that I should point out as a Black female in the design industry is that it was not easy. At some point, I felt like maybe interior design was not meant for me. I should probably go and study something else that would be lucrative for me as a young graduate, because unfortunately, you cannot wait to make it. You have to eat, you have to pay bills. So at some point, I was demotivated. I think because this industry is white dominated. So as a Black female, it is very difficult to finally make it, if I can put it that way. So for a number of years, I was struggling as a designer, but because I'm very passionate about what I do, I had to persevere. I had to stay in jobs that were not paying me my worth. I had to do a lot of things just to get by while learning about the industry until I was able to start my own business. And if I can recall back in the years when I was starting, there were not a lot of Black female designers. But now there's a lot of young designers that I see upcoming. And so I do believe that the industry is now more welcoming, and there's a lot of information out there for people to actually join the industry as well. And I think now with COVID-19, we are learning that we can not only run our businesses the traditional way, we have to now adapt to the digital space and learn how, because now there's e-design services where you can actually consult with a client who is in another province and design for them while you are in another province. So yeah, the industry is evolving in our country. It's growing as well. And I think there are so many possibilities for young upcoming designers, especially females.
Because thank you so much, Senzi, for sharing your story, your journey, your meteoric rise to success. And it was not just an overnight thing, but it's a process, as you were saying. You've had to endure some hardships, and at some point you're even doubting whether you're in the right place or not. And I think it's mostly common with people, especially in that territory that you are called in, where it's your purpose. Mostly you eventually in the initial phase, you begin to doubt whether am I doing the right thing, but this is not probably paying me so much. And you have to also make a living, as you were saying. But thank you so much for sharing your story. I believe that those who are listening and those who will be listening, they will be really inspired. And as I was just going through searching on the internet, and as you were saying, it's a white dominated industry. Most of the designers are white. I saw few black females in the industry. So thank you for being a catalyst and a pioneer in that industry. So you've made things easy for those who are coming after you. Thank you for that. And now I've got a question. When you speak of interior designing, most of us, especially, we think, okay, it's not a thing for the townships. We think it's something for the suburbs and all of that, which may be a misconception. Please also clarify on that, is because most people think you need an interior designer if you are rich. How true is that, or if it's not true, please address that aspect.
There's actually a post that I posted recently on my Facebook, and I was actually unpacking the fact that people think that for you to hire an interior designer, you need to be rich or have a lot of money, and that is really a misconception. Because one of the purposes of hiring an interior designer is so that an interior designer saves you money. Because we as interior designers, we have the knowledge in terms of the people who manufacture good furniture. Because, for example, you can walk into a shop and buy a couch, but it's very important to buy a couch that is going to last you for years. And as interior designers, those are some of the things that we keep in mind when we are designing a house for you. It's not just getting a couch that will look good in your house, but it's getting a couch that will last. It's getting a couch that will work in your space. For example, if you have children, you have to go for a couch that if children spill something on it, you are able to clean it. So it's a misconception, because as an designer, the first I ask a client is your budget. So I work around the client's budget. And that is a guide for me to move forward and say, okay, if this is your budget, this is how the project can move forward. And another thing is that as an interior designer, the other thing that I have to keep in mind is how you want to live in your space as a person. Because interior design is not just about the aesthetics. It's about the science of living, how you live in your space, how you move in your space, and the people living in that space, to make it easy for them to use the space. So it is a big misconception. Any budget can work for a space to look good and function very well at the same time.
Thank you so much for that. And I also believe that while you are speaking, I'm thinking that it is also this misconception is also perpetuated by the fact that we hardly see people in our communities who are interior designers. You'd go to a skawini, you won't find someone who's an interior designer, we only find their spaces and offices in town. So I think if we can have more interior designers who are in townships and we know them, we can be like, okay, we can, it's easy to relate, if someone is next to you. So yeah. Now another thing, in the words of Winston Churchill that I quoted in my introduction, where he says, we shape our homes and our homes, they shape us. So when the client comes to you and they give you their concept or their concept, let me put it like that, of how they want the house to be structured and the spaces and all of that. I want to find out, as you're taking your notes and all of that, how do you merge that with your own creativity? I hope that it's clear. I see that the client has her or his specifications, but how do you also merge that with your own creativity? Because as also Senzi, you still have to want to leave that mark that this is someone to see that must have been done by Senzi.
Okay, so I think the most important thing is to get to know your client. So the first thing that we do as interior designers that when we work with a client, we try to ask a lot of questions, find out what they like, how they like to live in their space, their hobbies, the things that they like to do. And then from there, we sometimes a client doesn't really know what they want, but from what they tell you, then you get to gather that information and put it together. And sometimes we even go as far as asking for images that inspire them. Not that we're going to take that image and use it to design their space, but it is to guide us and show and let us move forward in terms of how the space should look like. So we try not to impose our own style, because as a designer, I have my own style that I tend to gear towards every time I'm designing something. But I have to put the client's style in mind before I can design for them. So it's really about listening to the client and understanding them as a person, and then move forward with that information instead of imposing our own ideas.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Wait, please continue. I heard you wanted to finish.
No, I wanted to say that we guide the client. We do not impose our ideas.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I'm learning a lot. This is, for me, it's actually the first time I'm interacting with someone who's in the interior design field. Now, let me hand over to my co-host, Nos Royal. I'm sure she's got some questions for you. Nos?
Hello, thank you so much, Mbuyi, and thank you, Senzi, for all your answers and constructive advices there. What I'd like to know is a follow-up on what you've just said as a designer. How important is it for you to be eclectic as someone who designs, that you have to constantly change and be like water and, fit into this person's desires and this person's wishes for their interior design? Or do you, as a designer, have a particular signature that you work with, and then people come to you because they know that they'll get something like this from you, and if they were to want something else, then they'd have to go to another designer? How is it for you?
Wow, I think you're touching a very important point there. I think, yes, I do have my own style, but flexibility as a designer is very important. So I try to learn different styles. I try to learn about other cultures, because you never know what kind of client you have to work with. But at the end of the day, you cannot work with every client that comes along. So if I do feel that the client is looking for something that really is out of my league, then I can always another designer.
I like that. You sound like a doctor of sorts. Would you know, I do not specialize in this. nango omunye ongakusiza, go knock on their door and they can give you what you want.
Yes.
That also builds trust with your clients, that they can actually trust you, that you're not just trying to get their money, but it's about them. It's not about you as the designer.
Of
Yeah,
course.
that's beautiful. What I'd like to know with that as well, Uguti, your inspiration, where do you particularly draw your inspiration as a designer before creating something? Where does your energy come from mostly that inspires you to create? And then also, when a client approaches you, is there something that they should be aware of before approaching you for advice and assistance? Things that they should prepare for you beforehand that can assist you as inspiration, like you said, pictures and so forth, but is there anything else that they need to prepare and be aware of? So what is your personal inspiration that helps you to create? And then what should clients be aware of when they approach you?
Well, in terms of inspiration, I think there's a lot of designers that I look up to, both in South Africa and around the world. There's a particular designer in South Africa who actually I studied with. That is Donald Ngumalo. I think he's a young person who really rose and did some amazing things in our industry. And he's one person that I look up to. And yeah, there are so many other designers that I look up to, and I draw inspiration from what they do. But also I buy the magazines. There's a lot of blogs that I follow as well that feed into me every day. So it's really about always looking for something interesting and not really following that, but drawing inspiration and coming up with different ideas. And then in terms of what people should expect when they hire us as interior designers, for me, I have a questionnaire on my website where if a designer wants to work with me, they complete that questionnaire. It's very generic. I ask simple questions like, what room do you want to renovate? Is it a big project? Is there going to be any construction involved? So it's just to get to know the client briefly. And then obviously, before I work with you, there is a design fee that you have to pay. And our consultations are obviously charged at a certain amount. Like when you go to a doctor, you pay a certain amount for consultations. And that is exactly how we operate as well as interior designers. I know that there's many ways that interior designers charge. So some of them would say, okay, I will charge you a design fee. Some of them will say, I will charge you an hourly rate. Or another interior designer would say, I'll take a certain percentage from the project as payment. So there's different ways, but yeah, I think every designer is different. And as soon as you complete their questionnaire, that's where you get to know them and you learn about their fee structure and how they move forward with the project as well.
Thank you so much for your response. And you speak about a questionnaire in your website. I've been looking at your website. First of all, I must commend you and your team. You're doing a great job. The website is interactive. It's lovely. It's you even have a blog in that website, and it makes us relate to Senzi as also a mother, as someone who's who's a well-rounded person, a family person. It makes us relate to you better. So I really like the concept of having a blog. People do not, as we all know, people do not just buy your product, but they're also buying your personality. They're also buying you. So I really like that when I was looking at your website. So right now, Senzi, there's COVID-19 pandemic. It has affected many businesses in South Africa and has affected the lives of many people. But I just want to find out, how has these lockdown restrictions affected you and your business? And that's the first question that I have. And secondly, also there are people who may be interested in venturing into interior designing, rather interior design, but I want to find out maybe what should they what should they have in mind, or what should they do to prime themselves for this field? Yeah, those two questions.
Okay. COVID-19 really affected us as interior designers, and we've had to really look into implementing new strategies for our business. For example, as interior designers, we have to consult with our clients. We have to go to their houses and take measurements and look at the house before you can start working on it. But with COVID-19, especially when the lockdown was implemented, everyone was skeptical about allowing people into their homes because, you never know. And I think during that period, that's where I decided to implement e-design services, whereby I can actually design for clients who are in different provinces. And it is not easy for clients to want to spend their money, even though they know that they're not going to be able to meet with you. They were very skeptical, and it really affected our cash flow. And I must say that people are starting to warm up to the idea of e-design services. I think people are realizing that everything is now moving into the digital space, and we need to learn to do things remotely. So I've got quite a few clients now that I'm dealing with remotely, and it's going very well. But ultimately, COVID-19 affected us in a big way. A lot of projects came to a standstill. For example, I have a project in Zambia. We are done with the designing phase and everything. Now we have to start with installations, but because we are still under lockdown, I cannot travel to another country. That is on hold until when, I do not know. So COVID-19 really, really affected us in a big way.
And then the second question, thank you also for that response. And I'm glad that you found ways to work around this pandemic, and be still able to maximize your work. I want to find out. Okay, the second question was that, to those who are coming up in your field in your industry, what should they look out for? Yeah.
Okay. In terms of people who would like to join the interior design field, number one, they need to know that it's not as glamorous as it looks. I think people look at the glossy pictures and think, oh, wow, I can be an interior designer. It's a lot of work. There are times where you would have a project and you can't sleep, because with interior design, it's all about the detail. You cannot leave anything to chance. If you're working on a project, you need to consider so many things. You consider the space, you consider measurements, you consider the overall picture of how the client wants it. You have to deal with a lot of people, because it's not just you as an interior designer, it's the electrician. You need to know where your electric points are. It's the plumbing. You can't just say this is where the basin is going to sit. So number one, people need to be prepared to work around the clock. You need to be a very dedicated person. You need to be an industrious person to become an interior designer. And secondly, it's really just to follow your own instincts. Don't copy other people. It's not about looking at other people's pictures and then pasting and saying, I'm an interior designer. It's really about introducing yourself as a person and showing the world what you are made of. And I think there's a lot of vulnerability involved there, because you're putting yourself out there and you don't know how people will receive it. But being authentic is very important as a designer. And for young people who are still in high school, is to focus on your design and art subjects and make sure that you do well, put together a good portfolio, so that by the time you have to apply at university, you know that you have a good portfolio. And then also be ready to do the dirty jobs. If someone says, can you please fix up my house, even if you have to paint it yourself, do it. That will build up your portfolio. By the time you make it, you will look back and you will be proud of yourself. So it's really being prepared to work for it and just be dedicated, and everything else will follow.
Thank you, Senzi, for that. You've said some important words about being diligent. Guti, young people should not be lazy, and young people should not look down upon humble beginnings. That you are going to have to roll up your sleeves and do the work. Don't think that it's just about Instagram or about creating a blog. I think that's very important for people to understand what happens at the back. What I've been picking up while listening to you is that even though you first started out as a science student and then went into art, it seems as if you've actually brought it all together. You are a scientist in your own right in the creative space, putting together all the details, you know, you create your own chemicals and you're creating your own experiments through the arts. It's what I love about your work, and that's the detail that we see the most. What I wanted to know more on your business aspect, as you're creating work and, you know, there's e-designing now and your work is online, how are you protecting yourself? I'm sure there's laws around it, of course, your IP, your intellectual property, your designs when they are out there, whether people have paid for the consultation fee and there's rights to your work. How do you actually protect your designs? And have you faced any IP issues in the past, whereas work has been stolen, and how have you been able to deal with that?
You are raising a very, very important issue. I think for us as interior designers, for now, there really is no way for us to protect intellectual property. For example, a client comes to me and say, I need you to design my house. They pay you a design fee. I think the only way we are protecting ourselves now is that I do not design for anyone without a design fee payment, because a client can come and say, please design for me, and not pay. And you design, and then they take the design and say, you know what, I actually don't like what you designed for me. They go look for someone else, but they still use your intellectual property. So the only way now for us to really just not allow people to exploit us is to say, before I can start doing any work, I need a design fee. I think somehow people don't want to lose their money. So the fact that they've already paid you a design fee, it's sort of, it's a commitment to you as a designer. Other than that, I always just tell myself that I don't think if somebody steals my design, I don't think they will implement it the way I would. So it's really, I think, I don't know how the government can look into protecting designers, but at the moment, there really is no way to protect intellectual property as designers. I see a lot of copy and paste, especially when it comes to furniture design, because as interior designers, we are also furniture designers. You design a headboard, and the next thing, it's all over Instagram. And how do you protect your intellectual property? There's no law around design, and I don't know, there's still no way for us as interior designers to say, this is mine and I'm copywriting it, no one can take it and use it.
Thank you for that. It's troublesome, as I can see, but maybe Mbuyi might be able to come in a bit later with some insightful thoughts on that. But just talking about social media platforms, how are you managing, you know, there's places like Pinterest, like Instagram, where people just share their ideas, and you have that thing of copy and paste, but you have your own identity. How are you pushing through that market with your own identity and standing out from the crowd and still remain who you are?
Like I mentioned before, authenticity is very important. And people can see when something is authentic. You cannot fake authenticity. So I think remaining true to who I am as a designer is really my rule as a designer. And that's how I think I stand out as a Black designer.
Thank you so much for that very, very notable thing that you've just said there. Now we've got less than 5 minutes. Just in 1 minute, I don't know if it's going to be possible for you to answer this one. For me, I see interior designers as to be very central because you guys, it involves all fields and it brings all fields together. Engineers, because they are also part of the process. Those who are designing the fabrics, the plumbers, the architects. At the end of the day, it all comes and merge together with interior designing. So how is it important to build strong relationships, with other stakeholders, not necessarily within your field, but in other fields that are within the parameters of interior design? I just want to ask that.
Relationships are very, very important in our industry, because as an interior designer, there's certain things that you cannot do until you consult with a certain body and move forward. So I think I've been building relationships from the time I started working as an employee in the interior design industry. So it's important to value people and the work that they do, because it comes in very handy. For example, whenever a project comes up, you might need a construction guy to renovate a bathroom. So you need to have them on speed dial. So yeah, I value relationships so much. You keep in, you let them know that they are valuable and you value the work that they do. And I think in life in general, it's important to honor people and the work that they do.
Honor people and the work that they do. Thank you so much. We have less than 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Senzi, for sacrificing your time and for coming through. We have learned a lot, and this was very insightful, and we're really going to learn. Next time, Nos will speak about the intellectual property on how probably graphic designers interior designers can protect their work. We'll speak about it probably next time. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Nos, for coming through. Also, thank you to everyone who joined us today, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, lastly, I think we still have a minute. You can still have I would like to hear your closing remarks.
Well, I'd like to thank you and Nos Royal for the platform. I really appreciate it, and I value you guys. Yeah, if people want to get hold of me, my website is www.senzi.co.za, and we are on Instagram as Senzi Corp and Facebook as Interior Matters with Senzi. Otherwise, everyone must just keep safe, wear your mask, and drink lots of liquids and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And guys, if you still want to watch the video, probably you joined us during the course while Senzi was still speaking. The video will be made available on YouTube. We'll be posting it on our Facebook page at Enable. Please follow us on Instagram, also Enable SA, and also on Facebook as Enable South Africa. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. See you next week, Thursday, as we continue to celebrate remarkable people, remarkable individuals who are pioneering in their respective fields. Thank you so much for joining us.